falls over in the seat.
There's blood all over.
He had no way of knowing it was his last truck.
All investigators have to go on is a cryptic call to taxi dispatch.
Detective's hope was that somebody was going to go, I know who it is.
Do you think this will work?
Crazy things will certainly happen.
Tips start coming back in again and reignites the investigation.
I know, shut down.
But will all these leads point them to the killer or simply to a dead end?
This could go a little ugly, but we're prepared for that. There are some people among us, they have rage and anger in their minds. It would be in everyone's interest not to be standing in front of one of those people when they have these episodes. The difficulty is knowing when they might occur. There's one thing that never changes: murder. Life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim.
If you kill, I will find you.
Deputy Randy Chris is patrolling the neighborhood, and it's late. And all of a sudden he sees a cab stopped, but he doesn't see anybody in it. So he parks his patrol car and gets out. And there is somebody in it. There's blood all over, and there's glass on the hood of the car.
I'm a code 9 out here. Go ahead and start me additional units. We may have a shooter here in the area.
Within the hour, El Paso County Homicide Detective Steve Gansel joins Detective Mark Finley on scene.
Steve. Hey, Mark. Man, it's been a week, you know, hasn't it?
A pager went off just as my head hit the pillow.
Back in the early 1990s, the sheriff's office only had about 8 investigators at any given time, sometimes worked 2 or 3 days straight with no sleep.
What are we looking at here?
Yeah, body in the front seat of the cab. Deceased. Multiple gunshot wounds.
Taxi, huh?
That is an extremely rare event in this.
Detectives,
You the one who discovered the body?
I did. See this cab over? I light it up. Look inside, and this guy's just laying in there dead.
We did an ID.
We did. We ran the tags. They come back to Stephen White of Colorado Springs.
The victim was a white male, appeared to be in early 30s, with several gunshot wounds that were prevalent.
Any idea of the caliber?
Found 2 44 slugs. That's about it.
It's like one of the slugs passed clean through and pierced the windscreen.
Got glass on the hood as well.
The glass fragments showed directionality, where a person would be behind the driver and the gun would have been up against their head or their neck.
Hey, check this out. The meter's still running.
We should shut that off, but let's make sure we get a picture of that.
Can we get a picture of this meter, please?
The amount that's on the register is $53.10.
That's a significantly high fare, which means the victim either drove his last customer a long ways, or he'd been laying there dead for quite some time.
So what are you thinking? Robbery?
Certainly makes the most sense considering the circumstances.
Cab drivers are a target for armed robbers. They generally carry cash to make change for people who are getting in and out of their cabs.
Wait, check him for a wallet?
No, let's not disturb the body just yet. Let's get the whole cab towed over to the coroner's office. With the body in it, we might be able to spot something that we can't see in bright light.
It's very, very rare that it would take a cab with a decedent and move it to a coroner's office. But it was something that we elected to do, be able to work in a controlled environment.
In the meantime, we're going to head over to that cab company's Central Call Station. Can you oversee the vehicle's transfer, please?
Dick?
Thank you.
Cab drivers are dispatched. Someone calls in for a request for service, and the dispatcher call out to the cab driver and let them know there's a fare to be picked up at this location. It's imperative to go to the dispatch center for Yellow Cab and retrieve any information they may have as far as a call log or a recorded call that had come in.
I knew something was wrong when I didn't hear from him over the radio.
She tells Genzel they are required to call in on the radio to report that they're now going off duty, and he didn't do that. Well, he didn't do that because he couldn't do it.
How long had he been driving for the company?
Since before I started, so at least 5 years. He was one of our best drivers. Stephen White was a really dependable employee. And he was well liked by his coworkers, and he was being considered for the award of Driver of the Quarter.
How about his work schedule? Any idea who his last fare might have been?
Yeah, he started yesterday about noon, and then at about 8, he called in to say that he was going...
A pickup. She called him via radio and told him that there was a fare waiting.
He radioed back that he was en route, and that was the last I heard from him.
Did she get a name for that fare?
No. The guy sounded really out of it. He wasn't even able to give me an exact address.
He couldn't explain where he was. He said he was at a payphone and he couldn't read the number.
He gave me enough information that I knew that it was near the convenience store out on Yucatan Drive.
I know that place. It's about 3 blocks from where we found Steve's cab.
That means the fare that was picked up at that payphone, in all probability, would have been the same person that killed Stephen White.
Is there any chance you have a recording of that call?
Oh, yeah, I should. We record all our calls.
Can we get a copy of that?
Sure. Give me just a minute.
It was imperative to have that to be able to put voice to a suspect, ultimately, if that suspect could be found.
Here you go.
This is great. Thank you.
Can we ask one more favor? We're going to have to get a hold of Stephen's family. Would you happen to have their contact information?
I should have that here. Here you go. His parents are listed as his emergency contact.
No, thanks. Can I come to this?
Sure.
I'll get it back to you soon. Thanks.
So now we were trying to track down Jerry and Mary White. We stopped at their residence and there was no one there. And ultimately it was discovered that they were currently out of state.
While waiting to hear back from Stephen White's parents, detectives check in with the coroner.
Hey, Bowerman. Detectives. CSI find anything interesting in that cab?
Doesn't sound like it, but when they removed the body for autopsy, found this in his pocket.
When the body was moved, the coroner would then remove anything and everything from the pockets. And it was discovered the wallet was still in there.
Is there any cash in there?
Yep, $16 and a couple credit cards.
So whoever did this wasn't necessarily looking for money.
Now, we need to think twice if this is actually a robbery or if this was a planned murder.
A lot of possibilities on this one.
You know, I know somebody I think might be able to help us with this. Why don't you go home and take a break for a while? Yeah, I'll call you in a bit.
Thanks, Bowerman. You got it.
Across town at CSPD headquarters, Sergeant Joe Kenda is prepping for another day on the grind.
I would come in early and I would make 3 pots of coffee, as police departments run on coffee.
Just the man I wanted to see.
Steve, what brings you to our neck of the woods?
Been up all night on a murder. Cab driver found this car over in the Whitefield area.
Really?
So we started a discussion about what this is all about.
We got a call into his next to Ken, but we haven't heard anything back yet.
Okay, what can I do to help?
As soon as the victim's family is notified, we'd like to use Crime Stoppers.
Don't want to become involved so they can remain anonymous.
I think we're going to need the public's help on this one. First we were thinking it was a robbery. I don't know. We're not so sure.
I'm always happy to help. You know that.
Appreciate it, Joe. Sure. Thanks again.
So the next question becomes, who is Stephen? And who may know who has some issue with him?
Later that afternoon, Genzel finally connects with Stephen White's father.
Mr. White, I'm very sorry to have to tell you this.
Doesn't make any sense.
Mr. White, expectedly, was very distraught in the news of the murder of his son. He was very well liked. He graduated out of high school, valedictorian.
He went to the University of Colorado Boulder and gotten a degree in communications. He had a passion for music, and so he worked part-time at KRCC, which is our local national public radio station.
Hey everybody, this is Stephen White. You're listening to KRCC. I'm going to be spinning some of Colorado's favorite reggae for the next few hours. Let's get into it.
Steve wanted to be a full-time DJ, and this was the beginning of that trajectory. Everybody at the radio station respected Steve. They liked him. came in at 2 in the morning and left at 5 in the morning. After having driven a cab all night to pay his bills, was a labor of love.
Mr. White, would you happen to know who your son primarily associated with?
I mean, he has a number of friends, but probably better off asking Victoria.
Victoria? Who's she?
Well, technically, she's still his wife.
His son was married 6 years before this event to a woman named Victoria. They are currently separated, but it's amicable.
Would you happen to know how I can get a hold of her?
Yeah, she's an elementary school teacher in the Springs.
Although the father describes the separation as civil, perhaps there's more to that divorce that he's not aware of.
It was crucial. We tracked her down.
I was always afraid that this was going to happen.
When they got married, she thought that the cab driving was a temporary job, but he just kept driving, and he'd be gone all the time.
Can you share with us where you were around 9:30 last night?
Me? I was with a friend of mine.
Can I get your friend's name?
His name was Jay Brewer.
She says he's only a friend. She denies any romantic involvement, and they were watching a movie at his residence.
Are you looking at me as a suspect?
Look, ma'am.
You can forget about it. I did not have anything to do with this. I mean, how could you even think that?
It's nothing personal. We just need to explore all the avenues.
The wife seems generally distressed, but she does not have a solid alibi, and she can't be ruled out just yet.
And quickly delivers a possible lead.
Sergeant Kenda, I've got a woman in the lobby that claims she knows something about the murder of the cab driver over in Whitefield. She said she'll only talk to you about it.
All right.
That is not unusual, unfortunately, because everyone in Colorado Springs knew who I was and knew my name.
You don't have a seat. Maybe some coffee or something.
I'm okay.
What can you tell me about what happened to Stephen White?
Well, I think I know who did it. I think it's this guy I know named Ken Chambers.
She says, I know that Stephen has borrowed money from this guy and hasn't paid him back.
The sheriff's department's handling this case. I'm going to need you to tell them exactly what you told me.
I don't want to give them my name. I don't want Chambers to know I'm talking to the cops.
No, that's not a problem.
So we've gotten nowhere for 4 days, and now maybe we've gotten somewhere. Who is Mr. Chambers, and why is he not getting paid back? Did that make you angry? Oh, yeah, it did. The El Paso County Sheriff's Department and the Colorado Springs PD are jointly investigating the death of Stephen White, the cab driver and part-time disc jockey, and a woman has come forward naming who she believes is the shooter in this case.
Sergeant Kenda told me that you think this friend of yours, Ken Chambers, may have killed Stephen White over a debt.
That's what I'm afraid of. I've known Stephen for years, and he was always borrowing money from everybody. I think Ken loaned him a pretty large amount.
She thought maybe Ken got tired of waiting and wanted to get vengeance back on Stephen and committed homicide.
After Stephen's murder, I asked Ken, did you ever get your money back?
Ken said no, he didn't. I saw him the night he died. He came by my house. Now that is interesting.
Do you know where Ken lives?
Yeah, over in Whitefield. Pretty close to where they found Stephen's cab.
This is pretty good. We have money being owed. We have an admission by Mr. Chambers that he sees him that night. So Genzel's next step, of course, is to find Mr. Chambers and see what he has to say for himself.
It's all just so weird. I mean, Stephen was over here, like, right before he was killed.
Kid described that the night that Stephen was killed, Stephen had come by his home for a dinner break.
We understand you lent him some money?
Yeah, money was always tight for him. I mean, over the past few years, I helped him out a few times.
Ken said, we've been friends for a long time. I never really cared if he paid me back or not. So we go from what seems to be such a promising lead that actually goes up in smoke in front of Genzel.
If you ask me, all this money probably be traced back to his wife. She was bringing it down.
Mr. Chambers is not a big day his wife's way through grad school to get a master's degree in education, and all the money problems emanate from that.
He and Victoria recently separated. Stephen told me she was cheating on him. Said he found love letters from some guy from school.
Do you happen to know the name?
I think it was Brewer? Jay Brewer.
The reason Genzel is interested is he remembers that when Victoria spoke with him. She told him she was with a friend named Jay Brewer, and they were watching a movie. So Mr. Chambers looked very interesting, but now Jay Brewer looks even more interesting.
Okay, thanks for your help.
Is it possible that Jay Brewer wanted to remove his girlfriend's husband from the equation? Detectives waste no time tracking down an address for their new suspect.
Excuse me. Can I help you? You Jay Brewer?
Yeah.
You know Victoria White?
Yeah, I know Victoria. We took a class together at Colorado College.
How'd you describe your relationship with Victoria?
We're just friends, that's all.
The first thing the average person does is distance himself from any romance. No one likes to admit their romantic involvement with anyone, as it puts them in the middle of things, and no one likes to be in the middle.
I mean, she may have feelings for me, but we didn't have a thing, okay?
Can you tell us what you were doing Thursday night?
You think I had something to do with her husband's death? You out of your mind.
Okay. Would you mind answering the question, please?
I was with Victoria. And we watched the movie, that's all.
She says at approximately 9:30, they stopped at a movie rental location. They rent a movie.
You have any proof that's what you did?
Mike, let me check.
At this point, anything is possible. If Victoria and Jay were involved in an extramarital affair, Jay could have committed the homicide, and Victoria certainly could have given him an alibi.
Here you go.
Mr. Brewer produces a receipt from a video rental place that's date and timestamp that matches exactly what he's been saying.
Okay, Mr. Brewer. Appreciate your cooperation.
Yeah, right.
So for now, they're not considered suspects.
Later that afternoon, Gansel regroups with Kenda.
So you haven't made much headway on a suspect?
Not really. Every lead we have relating to his personal life seems to just go up in smoke.
Gansel tells me we're not finding a personal motive. And Gansel is very concerned that they're not going to get to the bottom of this.
So maybe it wasn't robbery after all.
I guess it's possible. We contacted the bank and found he'd made a deposit at 4 o'clock that afternoon.
From 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, when he also was driving, he could have had more fares and thus could have some more money than the $16 we found in his wallet.
If it is robbery, our suspect pool just gets deeper.
And the caller's your killer. And all you gotta do is find out who that voice belongs to.
At this point in the investigation, the main piece of evidence that we had was the audio tape that the caller made in the yellow cab. So we made various copies and went back out to the neighborhood in a hope that someone would recognize that voice.
I'm going to play a recording of a voice for you. Can you tell me if you've ever heard this voice before?
Sure. I'd just like you to listen to the voice on this recording and tell me if you recognize it.
Yeah, I need somebody to come pick you up. I don't know the address, but I'll give you the intersection.
No, I've never heard that voice before. Sorry.
I've never.
Thank you very much for your time.
After a few hours on the street, Gansel's unusual plan finally pays off.
Yeah, I think I know who that is.
There's a company that operates nearby, and they do shift work. One guy said, that sounds to me like Tyler Johnson.
Who's Tyler Johnson?
He used to work here. Come to work drunk half the time. He was always causing trouble. I finally had to fire him.
He also stated that on the night of the murder, he had seen him at a local bar. He was highly intoxicated, belligerent. He wouldn't put it past him being involved in a major crime.
Any chance you recall what time it was when he left?
Well, I left not long after he did, and I got home about 10, so it must have been about 9:30 or so.
We know the call into Yellow Cab was at 9:30, so the individual then became a person of interest.
Any idea where I can find Mr. Johnson?
I could look his address up for you in our employee records, if you want.
I really appreciate that.
Here we have a guy who apparently likes to drink. He has an extremely bad temper, and he sounds just like the voice on the recording. Is Tyler Johnson our man? Maybe. So let's go see. The El Paso County Sheriff's Department and the PD are investigating the death of Stephen White, who was found shot to death in his cab.
I need somebody to come pick me up.
We have recently obtained information that a disgruntled former employee of a business close to the crime scene is a potential suspect.
When detectives Gansel and Finley travel to the home of Tyler Johnson, their potential suspect is nowhere in sight.
I don't know where he is, and I don't care.
wife reports she kicked him out a week ago, ever since he got fired for his drinking and his attitude. And then he assaulted her, and that was the final step.
Okay, well, you wouldn't happen to know where he was on the night of April 26th, would you?
Oh, yeah. He came to my door begging for me to take him back that night. I wouldn't let him in.
She closed the door on him, and she has no idea as to where he went or what he did after that encounter with him.
Cabs everywhere. Damn fool.
Do you think he's capable of killing someone?
I don't know. And he's drinking? Maybe.
So here we have someone who moves around by taxi cab, who is in a foul mood after his wife kicks him out for the final time. Is he a suspect? I would say he has suspect tattooed on his forehead.
Do you know how we can reach Tyler?
I can talk to his sister. She'll let him know you're looking for him.
We appreciate that.
Thankfully, Gansel won't have to wait very long to make Tyler Johnson's acquaintance.
Detective.
Yes.
There's a man here to see you. His name's Tyler Johnson.
Really? Where?
He's in the lobby.
I thought to myself, this is it. This is our guy. Outstanding.
I understand you guys are looking for me.
And as soon as he opened his mouth, all the air went out of my sails. Knowing what the caller sounded like on the audio tape, it was absolutely two different people.
Yeah, do you mind coming back to my office for a couple minutes?
It was a letdown, but I still needed to speak with him to find out what he was doing during that time frame when Stephen was killed.
I ain't even gonna lie. Sometimes when I drink too much, I can lose control.
He admits that he does drink heavily. He does become aggressive and belligerent. The night of the murder, he openly admits he was at a bar close to where Stephen's taxi was found.
I left the bar around 9:30. Walking home, tried to call my wife, see if she'll let me come back in. She wasn't having none of that.
What'd you do after that?
I had the keys to my wife's car in my pocket, so I crawled in and passed out.
Boy, talk about hitting the skids. He admitted he was in a pretty rotten place in his life.
I know I gotta do better if she's ever gonna let me come back home again.
Sure.
Tyler's story followed an entire straight line of logic. So, from his straightforwardness and just gut instinct, he was ruled out as a suspect.
After the sheriff's office strikes out with yet another suspect, Kenda swings for the fences.
When you are looking for information and you're running out of sources, you try to widen your base.
Hey, Ann, it's Joe. Yeah, I was wondering if you guys might be willing to help us out.
We need more people to become interested in this problem. Who is this guy? To accomplish that, the Sheriff's Department and the PD contact Channel 5 News to see if they would be willing to do a reenactment of the event.
If you wanted to get the word out and ask for public help, that was really the way to do it.
Right behind me here on Yucatan Drive is where Stephen White was shot to death in his taxi cab. When we come back, we're going to recreate his brutal...
That was great, Ann.
Thank you.
Working with Ann Irvin was outstanding. She worked hand in hand with law enforcement.
So where did the deputy enter from?
Well, just like you see the car right. He pulled up directly behind the cab, and he approached on the driver's side.
Okay, great, thank you.
You bet.
Oscar, can we try and figure out where we're going to get stitched up over here?
Yes, ma'am, you got it.
We did not often do crime recreation, but this really had the community bothered, so we were delighted to be of help.
Hey, Joe. So, do you think this will work?
Crazier things have certainly happened.
Television is a very powerful medium. If you can get Channel 5 to show this on the evening news, you can generate new leads.
And I almost forgot. We also would like to get you a copy of the actual phone call that was made to the cab company right before Mr. White was killed. We believe that the voice in the recording might be the actual killer.
That would be great, thank you.
No, thank you.
Minutes after the reenactment airs on the nightly news, the phones at CSPD start ringing.
A confidential informant comes forward through Crime Stoppers and said, I watched Channel 5 tonight, and I've got something to tell you.
I know who shot the cab driver, and his name is Precious.
In a criminal investigation, you're punching in the dark trying to find somebody that says, ouch. You need something to get your hands around, and we have our hands around a Precious.
I know who shot the cab driver.
A reliable informant has come forward with information providing a first name of the someone he believes is the killer of our part-time disc jockey and cab driver, Stephen White.
Kenda convinces the informant to meet with detectives down at the station.
So this person you claim shot the cab driver's name is Precious? Is that male or female?
It's a dude. A black dude.
I have to admit, never in my life would have ever imagined a killer with the first name of Precious.
Precious is his real name, not a nickname, but I don't know his last name.
What makes you think he's the shooter?
On the night that cabbie got shot, I saw Precious and his brother. They were partying pretty hard.
Hey, man. Say what's up.
He was at a party when Precious shows up.
What's up, Mickey? How you doing? What's up? How we doing, man?
Through the course of the evening, the partygoers, along with Precious, are ingesting cocaine.
He started to get completely geeked out on cocaine.
Let's go, man. That's it. We out. Oh, man. Why you took the last of it? Get your cheap ass out of here. I paid for it, so I finished it. Man, what that's supposed to mean? Precious, relax. You're acting like a little bitch. Man, what the you say?
Precious becomes uncontrollable and was trying to get in a fight with his own brother.
Crazy, what's up, man? What's up? Precious, chill out, man. Chill, bro. No, man. Hey, your heart is gets wild. I don't care if my brother still beat his ass.
It was very apparent this would go bad quick if he stays.
You tripping, man. Bring it out. Get out, man. Go crazy ass somewhere else.
So Precious does leave with another partygoer, Marcus Melville.
I saw Marcus the next day, and he said that Precious pulled a gun on him after they left the party.
Yo, man, you got some blow, man? What? Oh, you got some blow? Yeah, chill out with all that, man. Give it to me, man. What? Give it to me, man. I'm serious. Yo, give me this, man. Let's go. Yeah.
Did Marcus say anything about the gun that Precious pulled on him?
He said that Precious picked it up at a pawn shop a few days before this all went down.
Why, my guys looking into that?
If you own a pawn shop and you are a firearms dealer, if you sell a gun, when everything about this gun and everything about the buyer is forwarded to the pawn shop detail of the police department.
Thanks so much for coming forward with this.
I'll call you when I know something.
Thanks, Joe.
So now it's a matter of hand-searching the gun sales in the past week or so and look for somebody named Precious.
While Kenda checks for information on the weapon, Ganzel has a chat with Marcus Melville.
I don't know who told you I was at that party, but none of it's true.
Melville adamantly denied any knowledge of the party or even known Precious.
So nobody pulled a gun on you and took your cocaine?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Never in my career someone admit they had their drugs stolen.
So that's how you will play this, Marcus? You got it twisted. I ain't playing nothing.
A couple blocks away, Kenda is hoping to have better luck with the CSPD's pawn unit.
Any luck, Sam?
Yeah, actually. We found a purchase for a firearm for one Precious Thompson about a week before Stephen White was killed.
Okay.
The best part is, the gun was a .44 revolver.
Precious Thompson has a record as long as your arm, and this gun file says that he bought a .44 Magnum pistol. We have Precious Thompson with the right gun.
Do you mind if I take this?
Yeah, for you. Go ahead.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So now, Detective Henley and myself went to the pawn shop. The sales clerk did remember the transaction.
Oh yeah, Precious. Hard to forget a name like that. You have the purchase form you filled out? Yeah, let me see.
When you buy a gun from a licensed gun dealer, you fill out a government form. One of the questions on that form is, have you ever been convicted of a crime, punishable by imprisonment, in a specified number of years?
There you go. You didn't put that on that form.
That is a federal offense to lie on a gun purchase form. He's committed a crime. We can arrest him right now for that.
At that point, an arrest warrant was obtained. Knowing his previous criminal history, the decision was made to surround his house and try to talk Precious out of his residence.
Everyone knows their roles, right? Let's see if we can get them found peacefully. Now we'll go to plan B.
When you have an individual who is believed to be responsible for a homicide that has a long and deep criminal history, the likelihood is great that there's going to be gunfire when you try to arrest someone like that.
Precious Thompson, this is the police. Come on with your hands up.
Sergeant Kenda called to come out, voluntarily surrender himself.
What y'all want, man?
breaking things, slamming things.
Damn, Pete. It's over, Mr. Thompson. You come on right now. We're coming in after you.
This could go a little ugly, but we're prepared for that. Once we enter that home, it's going to be very clear to Mr. Thompson. He has two choices: surrender or die.
What's I want to do?
Ready or not, Precious, here we come. So here we could have determined the identity of a person who is responsible for shooting Stephen White to death in his cab. He's no longer a voice on a recording. He is Precious Thompson, and we are about to arrest him for murder.
Come on right now. We're coming in after you. Yo, get out of my place, man. What y'all trying to do, man? Hands in the air.
What y'all pigs want, man? Let's forward. But they ain't doing nothing. Keep moving. You're trying to frame me. Stop right there. Down on your knees. Do it now.
Precious is put in a police car and transported to the sheriff's department.
And immediately, there was a search warrant for his residence. The most important aspect was a firearm. Specifically, the firearm that was used to kill Stephen White.
Over the next several hours, officers methodically combed through every room of the house.
That house was turned upside down. Everything was searched.
Sir, I think I found something.
We found the receipt for the purchase of the .44 caliber revolver.
Let's find that gun. Sounds like a plan. Maybe he dished it somewhere else. You haven't checked there yet. Under the plants? Yeah, you never know.
Genzel sees 3 large potted plants. He walked over there and started digging through the dirt.
Bingo. I'll be damned. You make out the numbers? It's a match.
We checked the serial number. It is the same gun that Precious Thompson purchased a few days before the murder at the pawn shop.
Genzel returns to the sheriff's office to try to extract a confession from Precious Thompson.
Mr. Thompson, I need you to tell me about the murder of cab driver Stephen White.
I don't know nothing about that.
What can you tell me about the .44 caliber handgun you bought at a pawn shop?
I bought it for protection. So what? It's my Second Amendment right.
He did admit buying the gun, but he stated it was for his own personal protection.
Well, here's the thing, Precious. You lied on the application to purchase that gun. That's a felony.
What? Come on, man.
That's why your bond's instead of $50,000.
You tripping? 50 grand? Man, that's some... You're trying to lock me up for something I didn't do. I'm done talking to you.
You have that right.
He became enraged. He didn't want to talk with investigators anymore.
Without a confession, Genzel looks for other ways to cement a conviction.
It's absolutely imperative that we put Precious in that cab, making that phone call, and committing that murder. So I'd come up with the plan to prove that Precious is the one that made the call.
Okay, Precious, we're gonna make this simple. All you gotta do is say what's on the note.
You serious, man?
Ready?
He was given a transcript of what was said by the caller, and he needed to read that verbatim.
He dials the yellow cab number, and they record it at the yellow cab using the same equipment.
I need someone to come pick me up. I ain't sure the address, but I know the intersection.
Thank you. Wasn't so bad, was it?
Detectives send out the new recording and the original call for comparative analysis.
We have that sent to a laboratory in Los Angeles to see if they could make a determination that that voice was one and the same.
I need somebody to come pick me up. I don't know the address, but I'll give you the intersection.
Eventually, the report comes back from these people that is with a high degree of confidence, they say, that the voice on the original tape is in fact the voice of Precious Thompson.
When confronted with the vocal confirmation,
I was high and drunk, and I needed the cash. That what y'all want to hear?
Yeah, that'll do.
I just want y'all on my face so I can go back to prison and relax.
Precious Thompson is sent to the Colorado State Penitentiary, where he then can apparently relax.
Based on the evidence and Thompson's confession, Kenda and Gansel have a clear idea of what happened on the night of the murder.
Precious Thompson is heavily using cocaine, and the use of cocaine induces a feeling of paranoia and also enhances your level of anger and rage.
Do something, man. Do something. Precious, chill out. It ain't working, brother.
Get out. Go crazy ass somewhere else.
Precious Thompson is raging on cocaine.
Chill out with all that, man. Give it to me, man.
He pulls a gun and robs his friend of his money and his drugs.
Man, let's go. Yeah.
Precious then ran off to the closest payphone.
Yeah. I need somebody to come pick me up. I don't know the address, but I'll give you the intersection. All right, yeah. Hurry up.
Waiting for the yellow cab, Precious did more cocaine.
Meanwhile, Stephen White leaves his friend's house.
All right, dude. I gotta go to work.
All right, man. Thanks for the pizza.
Thanks.
He drives to the intersection that he'd been given by the dispatcher. He had no way of knowing it was his last drive.
Yo, man, open the door, man. Yo, what took y'all so long, man? It's cold out here.
Sorry, man. Try to get here as fast as I could. We need to go.
Yo, take me downtown.
Yeah.
Precious is volatile. He owes people drugs, he owes people money. So he thought he'll try to get money from the driver.
Yo, man, you got any money on you? Money? Well, give me everything you got. Whoa. I'm serious, man. Hand me the money now. Okay, quit playing, man. Take it easy, man. It's over, man. Hurry up.
All right. Look.
What the hell is this? That's all I got. That's all I got over there, man. Serious.
I've only had a few fares, and when I bank deposit, that's all I had at the time, okay?
But do you know who I am?
No, I don't.
Precious Thompson, who can't control his temper in the best of circumstances, goes off like a Roman candle.
No.
Stephen White is dead before he falls over in the seat.
Precious then pushes the body of Stephen over to search.
People to kill, it hijacks the pleasure center of the mind, and it never gives it back.
At the end of this sad affair, Precious Thompson pleads guilty to second-degree murder and is sentenced to 58 years in prison.
1 year later, Stephen White's parents testified before Congress in support of the Brady Bill to ensure that their son's death was not in vain.
The Brady Bill was designed to require a 5-day waiting period and a complete federal criminal background investigation to prevent guns from falling into the hands of people with a criminal history.
His parents pointed out that their son might still be alive if the Brady Bill had been a law at the time of his death.
It's always a tragic thing when someone loses their life in a violent manner. It's even more tragic because of the gun laws at the time. He was able to purchase a firearm, which he should have never been able to do. And in today's world, he would not have been able to do.
Preach it. Get on the ground.
2 investigations from the case files of Lieutenant Joe Kenda. First, a young couple's date night ends in tragedy.
His chest is covered in blood.
He did not deserve to die.
As detectives delve into his past,
Can't sell dope in front of a damn school.
a crucial clue sets off a manhunt.
They look like what they are. On a high horse.
Then,
Robert!
a blood-soaked crime scene inside a shopping mall leaves investigators baffled.
Was he hit? Was he struck? Is there a gunshot wound?
It looked like this guy had been murdered by Jack the Ripper. Bad choices lead to tragic results. You have to be held accountable for what you do, and the police are going to collect that accountability from you. There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you.
It's just after 2 a.m., and 29-year-old Deanne Parker is exhausted after working the late shift.
She's just about to fall asleep when she's jolted awake by the sounds of arguing just outside her bedroom window.
Then she heard some gunshots. She gets out of bed and she looks out her window and she sees a woman screaming for help.
Listen, somebody might be in trouble. There's a girl yelling down the street screaming, "Get here quick, hurry, please."
I was coming home around 2 o'clock in the morning, and I parked the car. I walked up to the front door of the house.
Go for 4-1.
We have reports of a shooting on Institute.
It doesn't matter what time it is. Crime doesn't have a clock or a wristwatch.
10-4, I'm on the way.
Emotion drives it, not the time of day or night.
25 minutes later, Kenda pulls up to a cordoned-off street in the center of the city.
Morning, Wilson. Grimes. Morning. Especially there's been a shooting. What do we got?
We've got a 25-year-old black male victim. We've identified him as Julius Nelson. We've got a couple of witnesses say he goes by the street of Ricky.
Okay, has the body been transported?
No, not yet. We're still waiting on the coroner. He's still in the car.
You said there's eyewitnesses?
There are. We've got one male that's an acquaintance or friend of the victim, and a female, Kathy Needler. She's the victim's girlfriend.
We're advised that the girlfriend was very distraught, so they escorted her from the scene to the police station to be interviewed later.
Okay, hold on to the male witnesses so we take a look at the body.
Yes, sir.
So I walk up to this car, and sitting behind the wheel, slumped over in the seat to his right, is Ricky Nelson. His chest is covered in blood.
Did you see the tire iron? Yep.
Your first conclusion when look at this, there are 4 tires inflated on this car. He has no reason to have this tire iron in or near him. It may mean nothing at all, but it's interesting that it's there.
You got a bunch of casings over here?
There's 8 shell casings found at the scene. The shell casings are small caliber .22. Also, we noticed that the victim's vehicle has some damage to include 7 bullet holes.
This generally happens in the case of an unqualified shooter, somebody that really doesn't know how to use the gun, just pulls the trigger until it stops going bang, and points this in the direction of the victim.
Okay, witness?
Yes, sir.
So we've looked at this crime scene, and now the patrol officers have a witness present in the back of a patrol car, whose name is Walter Walker.
Step out of the vehicle, please. Chef seat. So you're friends with Mr. Nelson?
Yeah, me and Ricky. We go way back. He goes by the street name of Scappy. He tells us that they've known each other since they were children, and it's clear to us that he's very upset over the loss of Ricky.
So what went on here tonight?
I don't know. We was driving around and
And they talk, he doesn't say about what, and they're in some blue car, and all of a sudden it goes way south and everything goes down.
I don't know. It just got out of control real fast. Those boys were crazy.
He gives us a physical description, which is relatively vague.
Here's the thing, Mr. Walker. You want us to find who killed your friend? We're gonna need some more information.
I told you it was a blue car, right?
Listen, we know you're not telling us everything. I got a pretty good idea why.
This particular murder occurred in front of a house that has a history with the police department. It's known to be a crack house.
All right, you're free to go. But I want you to think of everything that happened here tonight. If you can remember any names or details, give me a call.
Yes, sir. You got it.
Scappy is not chargeable with an offense. It's not against the law to drive around at 2 o'clock in the morning. He is a witness. Nothing more, nothing less.
Think he'll drop your line once he gets his head straight?
That's unlikely. Why don't we pay a visit to the house next door?
Crack house? Hard to get a warrant this time of night.
Now, we don't need a warrant to knock on the door and ask a few questions.
True. Worth a shot.
We don't know exactly why those shots were fired, so all options are on the table.
Kenda. Surprise. What's cracking, fellas?
How's life, Smitty?
What y'all doing out here? I ain't done nothing wrong.
We recognize the individual. We recognize him from prior drug raids, and that can be to our advantage. If they know we're not after them, they'll share information.
We're investigating shooting. You know anything about that?
I heard some gunshots.
That's it? Come on, Smitty. It's getting late. We don't have time to play games.
He kind of shrugs his shoulders. Well, I heard somebody was honking their horn really incessantly, and there was a disturbance, a bunch of yelling.
Seen this blue car. Damn well what they was up to.
And what was that?
They was selling dope. Done. I hear them get off my street and go sell somewhere else. I told them people here only be buying from me.
The response back, according to Smitty, was these individuals told him to, quote, F off, or they're going to mess him up.
I ain't trying to get into it with him, though, so I went back in the house.
Nobody wants to talk to the police, and the way to avoid that is not...
I get up, bro. Come on, get up.
Ricky, oh my god! Oh my god, are you shot?
Just over.
Ricky then returned back to his car, touches his chest, sees the blood, and he dies.
Please tell my boyfriend that you.
He looked at me in my eyes and he said himself, and the second is that I love you very much. Ricky's head went like this and it was gone.
I had to protect myself. I swear I didn't have any choice, man.
Wade Douglas admits that he shot Ricky Nelson, and he said he did so because Mr. Nelson was armed with a tire iron and was advancing toward him aggressively, and he shot him as a result.
No, that's not up to us. That's up to the prosecutors. Go ahead and cuff them.
Come on, man. What are you talking about?
Stand up.
This ain't right. This ain't right, man.
True.
Wade was initially charged with second-degree murder. During the trial, he was subsequently acquitted by the jury, who felt that he clearly had the right to protect himself and that Ricky was a threat with a tire iron. Albert, even though initially involved in the fight, he was not involved directly in the shooting. He was not charged with any wrongdoing.
He really was the love of my life. I'd be happily married now if he wasn't gone. Every day, I live with the memory of what was and the reality of what will never be.
Ricky Nelson was certainly not a priest. Did he deserve to die? No one should be killed because of poor choices they make.
Coming up, a blood-soaked crime scene leads to more questions than answers.
This, by no means, is a typical homicide case.
Hey, man, what are you doing?
And it took some effort to discover the truth.
It's a typical Saturday morning. 16-year-old Jessica Barnes is on her way to work at the Chapel Hills Mall.
Hey, good morning, Ed.
Nice to see you, Jessica.
You too.
And when she gets to the shoe store that she works in,
Hey, Robert. Are you in there?
The chainmail is still down in front of it. She's expecting that the store manager is there.
Robert? That's weird.
So she's wondering, why hasn't he opened the door up yet?
Robert, I'm here.
So she takes her store keys and goes around to the back of the store to unlock the door. When Jessica goes inside,
Robert, where are you?
she sees her manager's bag sitting.
Robert!
As she's calling out for her manager, she all of a sudden slips on something on the floor.
Ew.
It is her manager lying face down on the floor, and he's the one who's bleeding.
A short time later, Kenda and his team arrive on the scene.
When I first arrived, there were several uniformed officers, a mall security guy, and a young detective named Tanner.
Gentlemen? Hey, Joe. It's a rough one. I don't think I've ever seen so much blood.
Really? So what we got?
A single victim, deceased, 34-year-old Robert Kelly. He's the manager of a shoe store. 16-year-old kid who works for him found his body.
It is his custom to open the store for business every morning at 10, so the question now is what has interrupted him from this routine?
Is the manner dead?
Still unclear. No weapons or casings nearby. A coroner's on the way, though, so hopefully we'll know soon. You want to have a look inside in the meantime?
all-American housewife is found shot dead in her kitchen.
When you smell death, you never forget that, ever. I've smelled it too often.
And investigators must face their worst nightmare.
The child had been shot twice in the head.
I saw my son Dan laying there in those pajamas.
There are always certain cases you'll never shake. This is one of them.
In the search for truth,
sometimes things aren't what they appear to be.
Kenda is pushed to ultimate breaking point.
The rage is consuming me, and I lost it. I looked at dead people every day, thousands of them over my career. And you are surrounded in this sea of violence, and you start to realize that maybe I am drowning. There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you. August 30th, 1989. I'm a sergeant in Homicide. I was in my office at 3 o'clock in the afternoon reviewing old murder cases.
It's Kenda.
Sergeant, you're needed in the conference room.
Okay.
Said that she would never reveal it. So I go to the conference table. Room is pure white. Well, that's a little odd. The table, the chairs, the walls, everything in the room is white. Sitting around the table are the victims of my cases. They're in various states of decomposition. Their clothing is torn. There are insects crawling on them. There is a river of dead flows past me every night. When I wake up from one of these dreams, I'm sick to my stomach and soaking wet.
Joe, are you okay?
I could tell when he was having a nightmare.
Do you want to talk about it?
No, I'm okay.
He would shut down. He would be quiet. He wouldn't say anything. He'd stare off in the distance.
As a child, I was not aware of Dad having nightmares, not at all. He was very strong for us.
It was bad enough that my mom had to deal with it. I think he was just conscious about not wanting to burden his kids with that as well.
I wish you talked to me about your job. I hate seeing you so upset, and I don't even know what's going on.
I never told Kathy for a long time, years. I never told her. It's just cruel. Why do that? Why make her suffer like I'm suffering?
Well, if you don't talk to me, you should talk to someone.
I'm headed to the station. Getting early start.
It was maddening at times. He'd just keep on doing whatever he was going to do.
I had always treated my employment as a mission. That I was going to make a difference in the world no matter what it took or no matter what the cost. I had not given much thought to retirement. But there were parts of my brain that kept knocking at that door. And I'm thinking, what are you going to do when you grow up? What are you going to do when you stop doing this and looking at dead people? And it was a fleeting thought.
This Kenda.
I had no clue when that call came in that this would be a situation I would never, ever forget. And to this day, I still cannot forget.
trailer park was one street over from the station where I worked for quite a few years. It's a really nice mobile home park. It's very well kept.
The officer standing on the porch of this trailer knows me. He looked at me, and next to his leg, he held 3 fingers. Now, he's telling me there are 3 dead people in this trailer. And I'm thinking, oh, great.
So we got?
This one's a real bad one.
Any witnesses?
The landlord. But he's really distraught right now.
Police department for approximately 9 years.
Let's take a look inside.
I was off duty that day. I just happened to be on call.
Oh, man. That's bad.
So we walk into this trailer. It's hot. There are flies in the place attracted by the blood. There's a woman in the kitchen sitting on the floor, halter-top pair of shorts, in her early 30s. When you smell death, you never forget that. Ever. I've smelled it too often.
Looks like she's been here all night.
You become rather accomplished at determining time of death because you see so much of it. Based on the blood and the rigor mortis in the body, I would say 12 hours.
2 gunshot wounds to the head. Close range, small caliber.
I recall her being propped up against the refrigerator in a very awkward position, as if she had not expected that shot that came her way.
We have an idea on the body?
Yeah, we found her driver's license.
She is Cynthia Anderson, and she's 32 years old.
As detectives scan the crime scene for clues, they narrow in on a curious detail.
Is it just me or does it look barren here?
Yeah, just a Bible. Some dirty dishes, and a purse. Did you find anything in there?
Just a wallet. No cash or valuables.
At first blush, Kenda wonders if the carnage in the trailer is a robbery gone awry.
You look at this trailer, the first instinct you have is there any evidence of forced entry?
And the door looks undisturbed.
Yes, sir. We checked all the windows, and they're all secure.
The idea of this being a burglary by a stranger does not have any apparent facts to support that, initially at least.
Where are the victims at?
Back here in the bed.
There is a Caucasian male, approximately 30 years old, laying on the floor. He's got a gunshot wound to the right temple. And there is a Jennings .22 caliber semi-automatic pistol on the floor.
Cocked. Looks like it's been fired.
The pistol is ready to fire again. So you have to be careful when you handle these things because you touch that trigger and somebody's going to get shot.
I just said there are 3 victims.
There is a 5-year-old boy clutching a stuffed animal. This kid has 2 entry-exit contact gunshot wounds to the side of his head. And because of the angle of the bed, he has bled out. He's wearing pajamas. My son had those pajamas when he was little. The very same one.
So you okay?
I saw my son Dan laying there in those pajamas. The 2 holes in his head.
Joe.
I gotta go outside. Sorry.
When you start doing this for a living, you build armor around your heart. You have to. To protect yourself from the horrors that you see. But there are times when something will go through that armor like a stiletto. We're investigating the death of 3 people by violent means. We know who one of them is. Cynthia Anderson. And she's 32 years old. And an unknown male. And even worse, we have a child, very small. It's the worst nightmare scenario involving the violent death of a child, but it's something you have to get to the bottom of. I have to. It's my job.
Sadly, I have covered several of these cases, and they don't leave you, ever. Particularly when you have children, it's just too easy for your head to go, what if that were mine?
Hey, Kath, it's me.
When he was working, sometimes he would call and say, won't be home for dinner.
Honey, you don't sound so good.
There's a kid involved.
I knew the kids really got to him. The young adults even, and the children and the babies.
That was a unspoken moment between she and I. She never questioned me as to what happened. All she wanted to know was that I was still alive. Children were always my kryptonite. I mean, I just could not get past that. I could not. And I would do whatever it would take to punish the person responsible for that event.
Sorry about that. I had to check on my wife.
Of course.
Did you find any IDs on those 2 bodies?
Moore tells me they've identified the male in the back bedroom as 32-year-old Scott Anderson, and he is the husband of Cynthia Anderson, who's dead in the kitchen. And their child, 5-year-old Scotty.
All of the gunshot wounds appear to be consistent with the 22 found in the bedroom.
Most likely scenario, Scott worked out the whole family.
This has the initial appearance to me of being a murder-suicide. That's my opinion.
While the scene suggests that Scott Anderson killed his own wife and child before turning the gun on himself, it's still entirely possible that someone else is responsible.
We have one opportunity to really get it right and make sure that we're not jumping to conclusions.
We need to find out if anyone stopped in this trailer last night.
I'm on it.
The issue in any case involving multiple victims is, who is a potential enemy of these people? So I'm going to talk to the person who called it in, which is the owner of the trailer.
This is Mark Brown.
Sergeant Kenda. Mind if I ask you a few questions?
Okay.
Can you just walk me through what happened this morning?
Yeah, well, my wife, Jenny, came over to help them pack some boxes. Supposed to be moving out tomorrow.
When he got to the trailer, he got no answer at the door.
You talked to her, right?
She said she'd be home all morning.
Mr. Brown reports that he knocked several times, and when he didn't get a response,
Hey, Cynthia?
he tried the doorknob and it wasn't locked.
Typically in a landlord situation, you would not go in, but they were friends and they were helping her.
Cindy?
What the hell is that smell?
What?
First thing he sees is Cynthia Anderson shot to death on the kitchen floor.
What is it?
Stop.
What?
She's dead. All right, she's dead.
What?
I've never seen anything like this.
What happened next?
He said he went to a neighbor and found a phone and called the police. And then he sent his wife home because she was so overcome with grief.
Did you go inside the trailer?
No. I just opened the door. Please tell me that that little boy is okay.
I knew that little boy is certainly not okay. He was overcome by that. He liked that little kid. Who wouldn't?
That's okay. We can talk later.
With no other promising leads, the pressure is on for Kenda to find out who killed the entire Anderson family.
Fighting crime / bringing justice was an obsession for Joe. It really bugged him when he couldn't get the knot completely unraveled. I mean, there are still a couple of those cases, and they drive him nuts.
Kenda, It's the Cheryl Wright, one of the neighbors. She thinks she may have overheard the shooting.
Yeah, I mean, it was late.
She indicated that sometime around 11 p.m. that evening, she recalls hearing gunshots.
Heard like 4 or 5 loud pops. It sounded like fireworks. Then I heard a car drive off.
Did you see who got the car?
No, I didn't see the car. I just heard it.
Oh, thank you for your time.
Sure.
What do you think?
It's hard to say. At first I thought Scott killed the whole family. Now it's starting to look like there's a third person involved.
According to what Cheryl Wright says, it's still possible that there could be someone else involved in this.
This throws another avenue into the equation. So it is extremely critical to make sure that we focus on what we know is factual.
We need to find out more about this family.
Have they had a confrontation in the recent past with perhaps a neighbor or a coworker or something like that?
I'll go check next to Ken. Touch base with you later.
Great. I'll hang around here until the scene's wrapped up.
Later that evening, Detective David Moore checks in with Kenda on his findings.
I tracked down Scott and Cynthia's family. They're all over Wisconsin.
Really?
Also pulled a background check on Scott and Cynthia. Found something odd.
Moore also determines that they own a home together, Scott and Cynthia Anderson, and is located on Manitoba Drive, about a 30-40-minute drive from the trailer park.
Strange, right? Maybe they were renovating.
I don't know. Let's look into this.
So now the question is obvious. Why do you need 2 households? We don't know. It's our business to find out. We're investigating the death of Cynthia Anderson, her husband Scott, and her 5-year-old son Scotty from multiple gunshot wounds. We need to know what's going on in this family, and how could that lead us to who might have done this.
I set up a meeting for us early tomorrow morning.
Good. Detective Moore had said about this family.
Great work. I'm gonna head home and get a shower and some shut-eye. You should too.
I probably won't sleep. You gotta try, right?
With heavy hearts, Kenda and Moore head home to their families. But the memories of the crime scene still haunt them.
It certainly affected me as a father. I remember going home that evening and actually waking my son up and holding on to him and just thank God that he was there and safe.
It was always difficult for me to go home when you're working at murder case and walk in the door and be all smiles.
We knew that Dad sometimes had rougher cases than normal, just by body language and by the level of stress.
Joe, that you?
Hey.
Sometimes it was very hard for him to come home and shut it off.
You hungry? I saved you some chicken.
And I was thinking about that child in those pajamas.
Well, I heard from Dan today. He's really liking his classes at college.
My son was 19 years old.
We have to pick out a weekend and go visit him. Joe.
I'm sorry. I'm not hungry.
I know you've had a tough day, but I need you to talk to me.
I think Kathy was upset on a number of occasions that I wouldn't let her in.
Sometimes I would be very sympathetic to it. Sometimes I would get very mad at it.
Maybe it's time to think about doing something different.
What?
Retiring, getting a new job, because this one's killing you.
Kathy became increasingly concerned that I would die as a result of this work, either at someone's hand or at a health problem that I would create by my never sleeping and eating bad food and all the things you do.
You know that's impossible. Just can't deal with this right now.
Me neither. I'm going to bed.
And in my heart of hearts, I knew that Kathy was potentially right.
The next morning, Kenda and Moore meet with Scott's business partner, John Howell, hoping for additional insight into the Anderson family.
Good morning, Mr. Howell.
Call me John. John was an individual who owned a commercial window washing business.
I'm Kansas Detective Moore. Thank you for talking to us.
It's unbelievable. The whole family just gone. Who would do such a horrible thing?
Mr. Howell did say that there's no way Scott Anderson would have ever hurt his wife or his child. In his opinion, they're a loving, caring family, and they go to church on Sunday.
Scott and Cynthia had actually met one another in Wisconsin.
Cynthia was pretty far along with her pregnancy.
Scott Anderson not only stepped up to dating a pregnant woman, went so far as to name the baby after himself. He raised that child from birth to age 5.
They got married and moved here about 3 years ago. That's when we met. Started working together.
I understand they have a house on Manitoba Drive. Do you have any idea why they were living in a trailer on the other side of town?
And Scott wasn't living there. Just Cynthia and the boy.
Really?
He said that 2 months prior to this event, that Scotty and Cynthia abruptly moved out of the house. So we asked Mr. Howell, why would they do that?
Was Scott seeing anyone else outside of the marriage?
No way. Scott and Cynthia were good Christians. And Scott said it was a bit of a squabble. Didn't say what.
But they were getting it settled, and Scott had told him he'd even prayed about it.
As a matter of fact, Scott had redecorated the home they had been living in, got new curtains, and was fully expecting Cynthia to move back.
Well, thank you for your time.
We're sorry for your loss.
My opinion of Mr. Howell is he knows little or nothing about these people's marriage or about their relationship. He's a business partner to this guy. He's not in his life. He doesn't know anything about his life.
But Kenda knows someone close to the Andersons that might be able to give him the insight he needs.
Now, we've never talked with Jenny Brown, the wife of the landlord. It's time to talk to Jenny to see what she can tell us.
Jenny was not in the emotional shape to be able to give a statement the night that the bodies were discovered. But she's got some information that's really going to blow this open.
So, how did you come to know the Andersons?
We met them through that awful church. Luckily, Mark and I escaped.
Excuse me?
She says it's a non-traditional church, and it's almost cultish.
Scott was so devoted. I swear to God, if they hadn't joined that church, they'd still be alive today.
Her opinion was that they all died because of this cult-like church. Well, that's something new now, isn't it? We've been investigating the shooting death of the Anderson family, Cynthia, her husband Scott, and their 5-year-old son Scotty. We've learned this might have occurred because of Scott's devotion to the church.
Why do you say that?
The church was very restrictive, and Scott took their teachings to the extreme. Cindy wasn't allowed to work or drive a car, and any extra money that they had went to that church.
Every man, according as he has purpose.
And the money that Scott was giving to this church was actually impacting his family.
Rational every day. It was like it was all or nothing with Scott. It was crazy.
There was a lot of controlling factors involved in this church.
What is this?
Just Scotty's lunch.
Cindy, what is wrong with you? This is not nourishment. This is not what God intends for our child.
He's gotta eat. He's starving.
He's not eating that.
He used the Bible as an excuse to treat his wife like a slave.
He had gotten in his mind that processed foods were evil. And because all their money went to that church, she couldn't even afford to buy groceries.
And Scott Anderson was so devoted to this way of thinking that he told Jenny he'd rather see his son go hungry than eat these evil food products. Oh, swell.
A couple of months ago, she showed up on my doorstep with Scotty. Scott had hit her so hard that he knocked out one of her teeth.
We don't know exactly how, but he also abused Scotty. And for Cynthia, that was that. She made arrangements to get out, go to the mobile home, because nobody was going to hurt her baby.
So they moved in, and things were looking up. But Scott figured out where she was working, and he followed her to the trailer.
Which is very common in the abusive male personality. Mr. Anderson makes it his business to find them.
That bastard had to have the last word.
In Jenny's mind, there's no doubt that Scott Anderson is responsible for the deaths. Given the physical evidence I saw at the scene, and knowing this, I don't disagree with her.
We'll let ourselves out.
We're sorry for your loss.
I just thought of something. Remember that Bible back at the crime scene?
Yeah.
we get back to the station, want to have someone pull that from the evidence locker?
Found it.
Nobody's touched it since. It is.
So we open this up and start fanning through it. And in the middle of the Bible is a note. We take that out carefully.
They kept saying the same thing over. Why are you leaving me? This is not right. We need to make sure we get back together and make this work. It was a very disturbing note because there were threatening comments there.
Sick bastard.
While the evidence is overwhelming that Scott Anderson killed his entire family, Kenda and Moore need the coroner to make the final ruling.
It's been complete on all three people.
So, Scott's wound to his right temple was a contact wound. I'm confident that it was self-inflicted. I think he turned the gun on his family and then turned it on himself. So I'm ruling this a double murder-suicide. But there's one more thing. She was pregnant. What? It was early on. Not even sure that she knew herself.
It makes me sick to my stomach that Scott not only achieved his goal of killing his wife, killing her child, but killing their child also. I mean, that is pretty damn close to demonic.
Based on the evidence and witness statements, Kenda can surmise what happened to the Anderson family.
My opinion is that he showed up at her house unannounced.
It's not a good time. You need to leave.
Not going anywhere until you listen to what I gotta say. You are my wife, and this is right. God is gonna punish you if you don't straighten up. Is that what you want?
I think he probably introduced that Bible into that house, pointing at it, pounding his fist on it.
Scott, it's over. Scotty and I are never, ever gonna move back in that house with you. I'm done. You need to get out.
Cindy, I talked to God today. He will save us all.
He's got a loaded gun in his pocket. He pulls out that gun.
He will save us all.
He then immediately walks down that bedroom hallway. His son is asleep in a bed. He puts that gun against his head. And shoots him twice. Bang, bang. He steps back. And then the case was closed. We have a suspect who is deceased, Scott Anderson.
Nice work, Joe. Time to go home and get some rest. What's so nice about it? The whole family's dead.
It was filled with venom. There is no justice in a murder-suicide. There's only the taking of human life for no true, definable reason.
There are always certain cases you'll never shake. This is one of them.
In the subsequent weeks and months, the Anderson case haunts Kenda on a nightly basis.
I'm like frozen solid, staring at this kid with gunshot wounds to the head in my son's pajamas. And I can't close my eyes. And I can't leave the room. When I would wake up like that, and I'd be soaked with sweat, and I'd be shaking and sitting on the bed, I look at Kathy, and she's just peacefully sleeping away like an angel.
The nightmares continue to take their toll, until one day a case comes in that pushes Kenda to his breaking point.
I came into work, and it was a terrible start to the day. We were overwhelmed.
I got a guy in room 4 ready to confess, but I gotta go on a call.
Nobody?
Yeah, I'll do it. Here's file.
One of the people under arrest was a 74-year-old man who'd been arrested for sexual assault on a child. The victim was 5 years old.
Damn. That's repulsive. Oh, I got this. All right, appreciate it. Thanks.
About time.
Lieutenant Kenda, I understand you want to make a statement?
Yes, sir.
I start talking to him, even though my skin is crawling at the time.
So how do you know this child?
My grandson. He's my daughter's youngest.
The rage is consuming me. I feel like I'm a volcano and I'm going to erupt.
I think we have a great relationship. Go to the park, do puzzles.
Why'd you do that to that little boy?
Came on to me.
And I lost it.
You son of a bitch.
In late August of 1996, I realized my emotions were interfering with my ability to do my job. And I didn't realize it to a 5-year-old boy.
You son of a bitch, I'd kill you myself.
I really think about all the ways I could kill this guy and how much fun it would be to watch him die.
Lieutenant, Joe, are you okay?
This guy's crazy.
You shut your mouth.
And I said, get him out of my sight. Right now. Now.
Get up.
Go.
I know what I needed to do. I had been on the police department for 23 years and 6 months to the day, which equates to 106 years of doing anything else. And I sat there and I was sick to the stomach and my heart was going 400 beats a minute. I felt I was losing control of me, that I was becoming someone I didn't care for. I didn't want that to be my legacy, that I was turning into some sort of a monster, so it was time to stop that. I tortured my own family, and I tortured myself on behalf of the citizenry of Colorado Springs. So I typed a single sentence. As of September 1, 1996, I am retired from the Colorado Springs Police Department. And I signed it. And that was that. It felt like somebody lifted an aircraft carrier off my head. I didn't walk out of there. I floated. Because I was lighter than air. I had no retirement ceremony. I didn't want the stale coffee and the stale cake. It didn't interest me. I wasn't doing that anymore.
See you Monday.
I was there on Friday.
Here you go.
Thanks.
And I wasn't there on Monday.
I was thinking about where we could go on a vacation. Maybe rent a cabin for a weekend.
Sounds nice.
Once he handed in his badge, I was very grateful. All the times of him working long hours, I really had a lot of concerns. Now, I didn't have to worry about Joe getting shot and killed anymore.
So, what are you going to do today?
I have no idea.
Over the years, he slowly began to decompress.
And finally one day, Kathy looked at me and said, "You're the guy I married again." I wasn't a policeman when we got married. I thought that was very nice. Many years passed. I I'd been retired for quite a while.
Good morning, Mr. Dog.
Good morning. So I thought I'd drive a school bus.
Everybody take their seats, please.
And we're like, okay, Dad is driving a school bus. Never thought that would occur.
I loved it. The first job I ever had in my life, where everyone was happy to see me. Everybody ready to go to school?
Yeah.
Well, let's go to school in our case, all right? But there was always those nagging memories that pulled at me. PTSD happens when it chooses to. The best way to describe it is having a nightmare while you're awake. It takes your breath away. And it'll last for 15 or 20 seconds. And it's absolutely startling. I had kept everything bottled up in me when I was working, but now it's 8, 9, 10 years later. So I got a letter in the mail that changed my life. It's a letter from some guy that says he's going to put me on television, like that's going to happen.
And I said, well, you need to call him.
I'm not calling him.
No, you need to call him.
And she said, I think it would be good for you to talk about these things. Finally, to keep peace in the family, I said, okay, I'll call him. Turns out he's a television producer who is very accomplished.
Basically, it was my mother who nagged him into it. That's probably the shortest version there.
What do you remember about that first interview you gave for the show?
The first season, the first time I started talking about this, it was a flood. They couldn't shut me up. It was like the dam broke, and here comes everything right now. I began to feel better, a little better all the time.
Because of talking on the show, the nightmares got less, the PTSD got less. The show helped him. I think his analogy of the camera being like a therapist for him is true. People are not typically willing to share things that are painful to them. He is.
There's been a lot of benefits, actually, to the show. People want to talk to him and want to thank him for things that he's done. And he's just representative of many, many hardworking detectives that are out there in this country doing the exact same things, who aren't on TV, but are going through the exact same types of challenges in their lives.
And that's been very healing for him.
It has been my honor to entertain you. And it's also been how people act and behave. And hopefully that can continue in some way. I've had a long and varied career, and I was successful at what I did. Will my passion ever stop for justice or finding the truth or locating people responsible for horrible things? No. That would never stop until I take my last breath. I put my badge down. I put it down. I can't put my desire down. It's part of me. If you could analyze my DNA, I think you'd find it there. Something I've always said, and I always meant. If you kill, I will find you.